Good morning. I'd like to call the Finance Committee meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Eckhoff?
Present.
Mr. Fairfield? Mr. Hess? Ms. Polk?
Present.
Ms. Weber? Ms. Parker? Mr. Seroy? Mr. Swanson? Mr. Featherling? Mr. Dunnell? Mr. Miller? Mr. Long? Mr. Hunter? Ms. Foster? Ms. Armour Earps? Mr. Wheeler? Mr. Alexander Hildebrand? We have a quorum.
We have a quorum. I have no public comment up here. Is there any public comment in the back? Seeing none. Approval of the minutes from August 23rd, 2023. Can I have a motion? Mr. Fairfield, second by Ms. Weber. Any discussion or corrections on the minutes? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next up is presentation. We have the assessor, Eric Blair, in the back. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning. I just wanted to make the committee and the public aware very quickly that on September 13th we did publish assessment changes in the newspapers, in the various newspapers around the county. And the biggest thing I wanted to make sure was clear today is the last day to file an appeal on your assessment would be Monday, October 16th. So my office needs those appeals by Monday, October 16th. If you're a member of the public and want to file an appeal and can't get it here by the 16th, please have it in the mail and postmarked by October 16th. That was really the crux of what I wanted to say this morning. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Any questions for Mr. Blair? Mr. Hunter.
Eric, thanks a lot, and again, kudos to you for providing information, valuable information, to the property owners. Could you walk us through the procedure in terms of how you file an appeal? Briefly?
Sure, absolutely. So, it really depends on how you approach the appeal as to what part of the appeal form you would fill out. But essentially, there's three main ways that you can file an appeal if you object to the actual assessment of the property. Remember, we're not appealing the tax bill itself. We're appealing the value, the assessed value of the property. So essentially, the three ways that you would file an appeal is if you have a recent appraisal on the property would be one way to do it. And that recent appraisal really should be dated January 1st of 2023 or prior, and really probably the back half of 21 all the way through 2022, because the effective date of assessment is January 1 of 2023. So those appraisals where the data is just leading up to 2023 are probably the most effective. So that's one way to do it if you have a recent appraisal. Another way is to look at the assessments of comparable properties to yours, and there's a grid that you can fill out on our appeal form. And similarly, you can use the grid also if you're aware of recent sales of comparable properties to yours. If you feel like you're being overassessed in relation, in relation to the market of the last couple of years. So those are the three main ways that we see appeals filed.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? See none? Oh, Mr. Wheeler?
If Eric could please clarify, where does the assessments come from that you publish?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. That's a great point. The assessments are derived by the township assessors themselves, and then I also place equalization on them. But if equalization is the only reason for the change, you wouldn't have gotten a notice in the mail. So only if the assessor themselves, the township assessor, made a change, you would have got a notice in the mail.
And that, just one last thing, those are not your township assessors, those are the elected township assessors, correct?
That's correct.
Right. I see a lot of misinformation that, it's the county upping the assessments, and actually that is not the case. It's the market, and then the local assessors are capturing that.
Yeah, it is the duly elected township assessors of each assessment district.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Eric.
Have a good day, folks.
You too. Next up is Mr. McCarty. We have the miscellaneous financial reports and discussion. You'll go ahead and see that in your packet. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning. I got the special chair. Good morning. First up, the regular sales and use tax, income tax, bed rental. Not a lot of changes or surprises. I don't know if there's any questions. It's flowing pretty consistently so far. So I won't spend a lot of time unless there's any questions specifically.
Any questions
on
from
these
the committee?
updates.
Seeing none, cash flow update.
Questions? All right. Cash flow updates. No issues there. I know I stopped giving you FY22 information, but the projections look like we're going to go up for all the funds represented here about $3 million from a year ago as far as the estimated for November, the ending of November. So cash flow, no issues. We have paid back the highway funds completely, and we've also completely paid the Series 2009 bonds. So that all happened in September. I have that bolded just to highlight. So all's well on the cash flow side. So if there's any
That's
questions.
fantastic news. Any discussion? Questions? All right, next up is claims recommended and not recommended for approval.
Take these as a group and go through individually. Do this.
Let's do a group, but if there's any like comments, I know Sheriff Downey called me about the first claim, the $828. These are items that they've usually done over the last couple of years, well, over the last few years. There's been about 15 of those that have taken in the auditors. This is the first time that the auditor actually has gone against that. I see Treasurer Africano in the back. Do you have something, Treasurer? Okay.
Want me to address it now?
Sure.
So this was sent down by Steve, asking me about a claim that was I don't even know if it's rejected or what the deal is. I sent a note to the auditor, and I said, Jake, per your note on the claim for Eastgate Communication, the purpose of the advertisement is to communicate information relevant to the Kankakee County Treasurer's Office and any other who ask to be involved. In the future, a quick email can answer these questions. Regards, Nick. And the attached response was, Nick, as stated in the past, if the workflow wasn't what it is, we would approach things differently. Alas, we cannot change anything, hence the lawsuit. Thus, we will continue to make notes and move on. However, the finance department deals with it from there is up to them, and Chairman Wheeler thanks Jake. So, you know, he makes comments to a claim, but apparently they're just rhetorical notes because he doesn't care what the response is and doesn't ask them preemptively so that they can be addressed. Because that could, as you saw by that could have been answered in 10 seconds. But apparently there's a workflow issue that I don't understand, but I just thought I'd present it.
So much for collaboration. And then next is another one in Nick's office. And I talked with State's Attorney Rowe last night, and he said there was no communication in his office for the claim that the auditor went ahead and apparently rejects. So, Mr. Dunnell, motion to approve, second. Mr. Long, any other discussion, comments? Mr. Hunter?
Chairman, thank you very much. Could you read those auditors' notes?
For which one?
All of them.
The first one that Nick was referencing to, what is the... I can't read that. Can you read that?
Well, I can give it a shot.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take the extreme promotional products one.
Okay.
While we acknowledge and thank these officers for their service, wondering if we can get evidence
Yeah.
that these are taxpayer funded, like the badges. Thanks. On the Eastgate Communication, what is the weekly
Advertising?
advertising
Oh.
for
What is that? What is the?
tax sale? Question mark.
I think Stevie's asking, what is it for? But the funniest thing is, I'm answering him, but the answer doesn't matter. You know, because the workflow. And Steve, just to reiterate what Steve just said about extreme promotional, what he said, while we thank these officers, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't give a damn what he thinks. Just ask the questions and I'll provide the answers from my office. But I don't understand asking a question if the answer is irrelevant. Why ask the question?
Okay. And the missing one about the missing invoice.
Yeah. Missing invoice, invoice with large sales tax, email sent to request refund of sales tax, no reply. And then the next two are just see previous notes.
Okay.
So we have a motion to approve, first and second. Any other discussion? Chairman Wheeler.
I'll just note that it's been requested of the auditor's office, anyone in there, whether they're there all day or not, somebody typed these out so we could read them, and they flat out refused. I think there was an actual response refusing to type them out. And the also thing is, I think that police officers who put their life on the line and negotiate certain benefits in their contracts, like their retirement badge, are due that. And an arbitrator would say the same darn thing. And I'm not really quite sure why we've had to, or actually, we haven't had to endure it. Law enforcement has had to endure the over 4-year assault on them, especially with the county, by the auditor's office. Thank you.
Thank you. Nobody else? Roll call.
Mr. Eckhoff?
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield? Mr. Hess? Ms. Polk?
Aye.
Ms. Weber? Ms. Parker? Mr. Swanson? Mr. Featherling? Mr. Dennell? Mr. Long? Mr. Hunter? Ms. Foster? Mr. Wheeler? Motion carries.
Motion carries. Next up is monthly claims and county pay estimates.
I don't have anything specific on the claims report. I don't know if there's anything to communicate on the pay estimate.
And Chairman Wheeler.
We didn't have a quorum to do the highways pay estimate, so we were looking for this committee to do a combine and approve and pay the bills.
Okay. Can I have a motion to combine and approve? First by Mr. Donnell, second by Mr. Swanson. Any discussion? Questions on the committee claims? If not, roll call.
Mr. Eckhoff?
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield? Mr. Hess? Ms. Polk?
Aye.
Ms. Weber? Ms. Parker? Mr. Swanson? Mr. Featherling? Mr. Dennell? Mr. Long? Mr. Hunter? Ms. Foster? Mr. Wheeler? Motion carries.
Motion carries. Next up is 2024 budget update.
Yeah, I just wanted to update the committee that there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes, but we're waiting a few very critical pieces of information to be able to complete the general fund budget. All the special fund budgets are doing well and almost complete, waiting on a few departments response for those, but we will have a complete document here for review next month. We don't have to move any meeting dates because there's more than 15 days in between the regular finance and the regular full board, as the statute recommends, as far as putting it on file for public review before it's approved. Just everything's going well. It's just there's a few very critical pieces of information, health insurance, and communicating with the sheriff's department, trying to make sure everybody's on the same page there as far as looking forward into FY24. So just wanted to let the committee know that and answer any questions if there are any.
Any questions from the committee? Okay, nothing. Next up is ARPA.
All right, the claim for Tim Lally Chevrolet is before you. This was communicated with the state's attorney's office, and it's now looked at as like an emergency situation to grab these cars as soon as we can, and so this is following up to complete the process, get approval and a resolution at the full board. These are ARPA lost revenue funds to pay for the three 2023 Chevrolet squad cars.
Can I get a motion to approve? Motion by Mr. Hunter, second by Mr. Long. Any discussion or comments on this? Roll call.
Mr. Eckhoff?
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield? Mr. Hess? Ms. Polk?
Aye.
Ms. Weber? Ms. Parker? Mr. Swanson? Mr. Featherling? Mr. Dennell? Mr. Long? Mr. Hunter? Ms. Foster? Mr. Wheeler?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next up is Rural Transit Bus Pad. Chairman Wheeler.
Yes, this just occurs to me, and I apologize for interjecting this, but we are in this situation. I got the phone call from the sheriff, and there were 4 vehicles. And then by the time I got to John and got around and, got all the mechanisms done we had to do internally to qualify this as an emergency, one of them was gone. One of them left the lot in that 2 or 3 hour period. So I'm wondering if it might be something that I could at least get the head nod to move on this stuff, because this supply chain emergency is not stopping. It's national for Tahoes and Explorers. So I'm wondering if the committee would just allow us to move on this, knowing the state's attorney has agreed that if these pop up, go get them. So just so we don't miss the opportunity and they start leaving the lot before we get them.
I'm seeing head nods. Mr. Long?
This is a problem that's going to go on for a while. It also includes the vans for corrections as well. So I think we need to include the van discussion with this discussion.
So it's not
If
a
it needs-
motion, but if
It's a head nod.
it's a head nod.
Yep.
Okay. And if someone has a problem, please say it. But it seems like the last 2 times this has happened, it was immediate on the response from the state's attorney, but it takes time to find them. They just don't wait for the phone to ring for me. Actually, just the opposite.
All right. Next up, Rural Transit Bus Pad.
Yeah, this one showed up. Apparently, it was done last October. I don't know, Chairman Wheeler, do you have information on this one?
Yeah, that was a county and Metro Bus partnership to put a bus location in 5000 Road, and for some reason they never billed us for the concrete pad, and so this was and then Metro Bus provided the shelter, so we did the pad, they did the shelter. We just got the bill, so that's why it's I apologize, a year late. It just showed up, which was surprising to me as well.
So this would be an ARPA lost revenue, and we're gonna get a resolution created for it.
Okay. Motion to approve, Mr. Dunnell, second by Mr. Swanson. Any discussion or questions? We just got the reasoning behind it. Roll call.
Mr. Eckhoff?
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield? Mr. Hess? Ms. Polk?
Aye.
Ms. Weber? Ms. Parker? Mr. Swanson? Mr. Featherling? Mr. Dennell? Mr. Long? Mr. Hunter? Ms. Foster? Mr. Wheeler? Motion carries.
Motion carries. Anything else, Steve?
Nope, that's all I had.
Thank you very much. Keep up the good work. Next up is County Treasurer Nick Africano. Can I have a motion to combine and approve his reports? Motion by Mr. Hunter, second by Ms. Parker. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. McCarty just told me that was record time. I have to disagree with that. I don't have much to report other than taxes are collected. There's still some stragglers obviously coming in, but tax collection is done. Mobile home tax collection is done. The auction, surplus auction, property auction, was done as a sealed bid. That was done last Friday. I guess the best news I have is that we are today a little over $600,000 in interest money this year, which is the first time I can report that since I've been here. So that feels good to have some money, earning money. Just for everybody's edification, if we are earning money on tax collection, that's money that then gets redistributed to the taxing districts, so they actually earn the money. But ARPA funds, we earn the revenue and get to keep it. So that's a good thing. Again, partial payments, payment plans in terms of choices continue to grow year over year. I think we're about 15% up this year, people paying that way, and hopefully that'll continue. Other than that, I think that's, I just want, I guess, say thank you to Diana, Shakira, Sarah, and Teresa in my office for the awesome work they do. Questions?
I don't see any. There you go, John. Next up is the auditor's office. Nobody's here. Other business, authorizing approval for County Highway 9 between US 45 and 52 and Interstate 57, Section 800286000FP. Would you like to come up and give a brief description? Good morning.
Good morning. In case some of you haven't met me, my name's Lucas. I'm the assistant county engineer, so I'm filling in for Greg today. He had another meeting he had to be at. But essentially, this is just we need to get a little bit more money for engineering for this project. The scope of the project changed a little bit from when it started. So. The scope of the project changed a little bit from when we originally got the funds approved for the engineering, so we need a little bit of additional funds. So that's what it's for.
How much of a difference in funding?
So we had originally been approved for, I think it was just under 270,000, and this new agreement is for 130,000. It's $131,102.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve? Motion by Mr. Long, second by Mr. Swanson. Any discussions or questions?
Yes.
Mr. Featherling first.
How come the increase?
Microphone, please.
Oh, sorry. How come the increase?
So the one of the bigger things was there's an environmental study that was done 10 years ago, whenever this was first looked at, and we were trying to use that as part of this project, and usually those only last like 2 years, so they made us redo that. That was a pretty big cost. And then there was a lot of back and forth between 3 lanes and 5 lanes, and ended up pretty much it's gonna end up being the 5-lane one, so that was another cost. And then they have to do some other there was the new intersection design study at 45 and Spruce. There was not originally supposed to be any stoplights there, but that's gonna have to have a study now to see if there needs to be a stoplight there because of the new lanes.
45 and Spruce?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they cross. Spruce is north-south.
It says 45 and Spruce on here, but it's actually 9,000 in Spruce.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should the motion be to amend the original resolution?
I didn't know that there was an original. Where's
The 10th day of October 2023 is what the resolution states. But I don't know if there's actually a...
That's the new resolution. There was a...
Okay. Oh, okay. All right.
There was an original resolution. I think it was either the beginning of this year or the very end of last year when we went into the original agreement with Hutchinson. I don't have the original resolution with me here, I don't think.
So I was still, I wasn't done, sorry.
Oh, well, okay, my apologies. Go on,
No,
John.
no, you're the chairman, so. go ahead. I was just wondering how you can justify a third increase in the bill, that's all. I mean, did you guys just inflate out of that and get missed by that? Why, was that $100,000 to do an environmental survey? That they already did?
It's because of the additional lanes. So typically, you get charged for a percentage of what the overall job is, and so that comes out to about 5 to 6% of the total project now, which is still fairly low for. I mean, a lot of engineering firms, they're up in the 10-15% range. So.
Jeez. Okay. And you said they were adding a light. I really believe.
Well, we don't know yet. That's part of the study. They have to do a study for it. Yeah.
I would. Some rearrangement could be done there where that light wouldn't have to be put in.
That's. I mean, I think that's kind of what they're looking into. I think there's supposed to be turn lanes that are going to be added right now, and it may not require that, but.
Yeah. Okay. So you've consulted with the Village Manteno on exactly what their plan is?
I think that's actually, Greg had a meeting yesterday, and I think he has another one today maybe, but I know he had one yesterday that Manteno is actually going to be paying for the most of the additional money that the project is going to cost, but this is just for the engineering. Because they're adding on, anything that they want to add on Manteno, the village has to pay for.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Featherling. Chairman Wheeler.
It was the same questions, but I would just ask that if there are changes, if we could get some notice beforehand so we could have a better idea and explain it to the finance chairman instead of walking in and trying to go through the paperwork. And that might be a good way to do it. And it's not, we're not to the woodshed, because just passing along to Greg, you know, that it would helpful if we understood that. We come in here and have an open discussion where people are starting from a basis of understanding. We could have done that in actually the previous meeting in highways.
Right.
See my point?
Right.
Okay. Yeah. And this, by the way, the who controls the geometry of the intersections? You know, you're saying turn lanes, lights. There's a study. That's our road? So is that ours to make sure it's up to what it needs to be? I'm just curious.
Yes, and we've tried to work with the village to make sure that we're making them happy too with what they're wanting, but we're trying to stay within, you know, the reasonable budget. Right. So
the only increased cost from us is this study to kind of say what needs to be there.
Yeah,
they're paying the rest.
Any additional stuff that's not part of the original, that's what they have. The village has to pay for anything that's above what our, pretty much what we have to have there from a county standpoint.
Is that it, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah. I guess that would be on the west part after the bridge. The east part of this road going out to 45 is a different discussion.
That's what this is. This is going from the bridge to 45 going east.
And so this is the intersection by Dunkin' Donuts over there.
No, this is the intersection. Spruce is just over.
Okay, for that subdivision that goes to the right.
Yes.
Because I don't know the road names. I want to make sure I understand.
Yes.
Because I'm living and breathing because of that, the employer going there.
Yeah.
I'm paying quite a bit of attention. I want to make sure.
Yeah, it's that intersection where that where John Deere is and the
you turn right into the subdivision is left into there. Okay.
Yep.
All right. I would say, knowing that, I think it's our responsibility to make sure that road is clear for traffic coming in and out of there.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Anybody else first time? Second time, Mr. Featherling.
What's the plan for the other side of the bridge when you go over the bridge and you got 5 lanes coming over and you got 2 lanes going through? What are you gonna do there? I mean, I haven't.
I would say that, Mr. Chairman, can we discuss that in highways?
Okay.
That's really a more discussion.
Okay.
There's been a lot of meetings and other stuff, and it's really involved with the.
Yeah, but is he gonna be asking for more money again?
No, that's an MPO project.
Okay.
This is our project.
Okay.
All right, thank you. So we have motions. Any other discussion or questions? We have a first and a second. Roll call.
Mr. Eckhoff?
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield? Mr. Hess? Ms. Polk?
Aye.
Ms. Weber? Ms. Parker? Mr. Swanson? Mr. Featherling? Mr. Dennell? Mr. Long? Mr. Hunter? Ms. Foster? Mr. Wheeler?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, can I clarify something?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to misspeak. Actually, there is more money needed for the whole project, because the estimate on is now $2 million more than it was. But they're not asking us for it. I'm asking Springfield for it, just so you know.
Between that and the village.
Correct. Yeah, the village has a chunk of it with the bridge and everything over that direction. Curb and gutter, multi-use path, that's all going that direction. We'll get into that geometry because that was just basically settled yesterday, if you will. But the actual economic development reason to do certain things is now here. 3 lanes, 5 lanes, curb, multi-use path, all of that. It's really involved. Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming, and thank you. Next up is construction manager for circuit clerk project. Discussions only. Are you going to take this one, Andy?
Yes. So when we were looking at all these different projects, and I've been working with Wes on this, I wanted the committee to know that there's been a kind of a shifting sands of the way these projects are going these days. And I was looking for the sheet that I would giving you guys the reasons. I typed them all out. Are they in here? Yeah, I emailed them over. Sorry, I didn't check the packet yesterday. It's basically what we want to do for the next project is we want to use a construction manager setup to where we're having some point of contact. Wes can't manage all of these different well, he could, but then he's not managing his staff.
Mm-hmm.
So we need him to be involved with maintenance in the buildings and PM and all the different things that he does. Having a construction manager allows them to be our representative on site, much like White is at the animal control building. So if I'm bringing it to you as why would we be doing some things, there may be a marginal cost, either keeping things the way they are, slight increase, but what we give up in that slight increase, and that's undefined at this point. But any increase would be the savings is in our time on going back and having to manage every single change order, every single step of the project, and we just get updates on a bi-weekly basis to make sure it's in budget and all in scope and everything else. I hope that makes sense. So Wes has the hey Wes, I need your face. Face ID. Sorry for needing his face.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually, we had some of this, yeah, we had typed it up a little bit. It's considered a professional service, so we can just do that and hire that out of committee. Let's see here, requests qualifications from several construction managers. We have somebody identified that has done a lot of work for us here. That would be our representative on the floor, and then we bill out the trades and bid out trades, bid out electrical, bid out all the different things. So it still has the bidding process, just managed by our construction manager and releasing bids here and things like that, just like the White project. We're guaranteed to work with a quality construction manager of our choosing. Not, we don't want to, sometimes the low bidder is, they always say that, the low bid gets the deal, but maybe that's not necessarily what exactly is in the best interest of the project. It's a responsible bidder, exactly. With the construction manager on board, before it's designed, it's a coordination between the architect and the CM. So our architect is Doug Bright. They're able to coordinate with the CMs, and then bring those solutions to us instead of us or having Wes involved and myself on a minute-by-minute daily basis with that process. With all these multiple projects going, I would recommend this process, really, because we're not talking about a $50 million building. Then it becomes a deeper dive discussion. We're talking about, really, in this case, Sandy's office over there. So They'll work on schedule control, design process, ensure that the construction timeline fits within our needs, and all the bid packages are publicly advertised and bid. So it's still, we're not hiding behind a construction manager. It's just basically we are having somebody with that expertise to be our representative on the ground all day, every day, to make sure, you know, I'd say the old proverbial, they just fell off the bucket again for the 4th time today. So it's like, we don't want to see that, paying people to sit around. So do people have questions about this? Because it seems to be most counties are shifting in this direction to hire this, because they just don't have the staff anymore internally because of revenues. So,
Ms. Weber.
Thank you. I just wonder the timing of it. Will it be expeditious?
Oh yeah, we would still want to be under construction here during the slowdown over the Christmas season.
Yeah.
And we've got, and Mr. Doug Bright's been working on the design. You've seen the preliminaries, I believe. Most people have seen those. We brought him to committee. He's refining that so we can get it out to bid. And so we would want, at this phase is when you want a construction manager involved, because they know what the current price of materials are. They know where the best deals are. You know what I'm saying? It's tough for an architect to be able to give us a number on a project these days, because supply chain and everything is all over the map. It changes monthly. Anybody in that business will tell you. So,
Any other questions? So this is just a discussion?
Discussion now, and then once we have a proposal, we'll probably bring it to Building and Grounds.
Okay.
To start with, and they would forward it here for, you know, that
conditional approval.
The approval.
All right, thank you. Next up, new phone system RFP. I think Mr. Duvall is going to take this one. Good morning.
Morning. I believe most of you have been in all the meetings I've discussed this, so I won't go on forever about it. We're releasing the RFP for a new phone system. The new phone system will entail the annex building, 470 East Merchant, the courthouse, this building, and the building right next door. The details of the RFP are in the the details of the system and the requirements are in the RFP, and that's going to be posted on the website. And we're going to send directly to 3 of the vendors that are already dealing with us, which are local vendors. They've already shown interest in wanting to bid on this process. When it's accepted, I will be opening it, I believe, at the finance department. I think that's what the chairman wanted to have it done, open it at the finance department. And then what
finance committee.
I'm sorry, I meant committee, not department. And then I've talked to Nita and I've talked to Steve. I want to have there be a small working committee, which would be finance and the 5th floor. Anita, maybe Andy, if Andy wants to be involved in it, on making the final decision. Pretty much all of the systems that will be proposed to us, I know already about them. In some ways or another, they're already in other departments in the county, so we know they work. They're different vendors, but they're pretty equal. So it's basically going to be on price. There's some things driving this with AT&T and needing us to get off of the legacy systems. That cost is now starting to get dramatic, so we do need to move forward with that. So costs will be dramatic, not just the cost of this installation, but the ongoing costs. We also need to, what we're doing is getting closer to how it used to be, where we're centralizing it again. Things happened over the last 10 or 15 years where when the county was on money, they decentralized it. Well, that's what they needed to do, but that's not the best way to do it. It needs to come back under control of the administration, the finance department making the decision. And then because it's now networked, it's touching the system, there's security involved, our department will go back to dealing with what we used to deal with 8 years ago. So overall, there needs to be some control processes put back into it to make sure we control the cost. I don't know if anybody has any questions about what we plan on doing.
Any questions from the committee? Ms. Weber.
Thank you. I just wondered on time again. What's your perspective of time?
I'm sorry. Do you mean for when they expect to send it back to us, or the implementation?
Well, say it gets through all the meetings. When do you hope the new phone system is all set up?
Okay, we hope. I mean, the due date for the RFP, it'll start today and be October 24th. I think is the date that we have on the RFP. The installation process, because this is a complete overhaul of the infrastructure, this is going to take, I'm going to say longer than weeks. This is going to take months, because we're going to deal one department at a time. If you're a small business, you could just go and wipe out what you have and do it over. Since we're government, we need the public to still have access to the office. We can't just go change those numbers. Since we deal with the courts and probation, public defender, those are critical numbers. We can't just, make those go away. And so there's part of it that the vendor and the county doesn't control. It's when AT&T releases those numbers to the new system, and I can't tell you when that's going to happen. So much so is we'll be running two systems. We'll run our existing system. We'll do one department at a time. That department will go online, and as the numbers come through, they'll be able to operate both. And that way, we know the public will have access. Calling out would never have been a problem. We just need to make sure the public can get to the services that they need to do. So we're not trying to rush that. We're also going to go by the recommendation, whoever wins the bid. But we want to make sure that state's attorney, the courts, elections, treasurer, everybody still has access to the public, because that's critical. As we all know, nowadays, there is no manual process. So everything has to flow between the phone systems, the internet, the email. This is critical that nothing drops out. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It doesn't.
Gave you more than you can.
Thank you for that, because I was wondering if it goes over budget years. Is that what when you're having to put some money into both?
It shouldn't take that long.
Oh.
But I don't want to tell you it should. Well, I see what you're saying, because the budget year starts in December 1. Yes, it'll probably cross that, but the money's being paid for, I believe, out of ARPA.
I see.
So it's not a operational expense, and the ongoing expense will be, and that's what the finance department tell you we need to get back under control, is the overall cost for the phone system.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Weber. Mr. Wheeler.
I just the hope is that the savings that we're going to have from the AT&T see you later, I guess is about the best way to say it, will be what pays for a large chunk of the actual phones themselves. There'll be other infrastructure needed, but we don't know that cost. But if we don't have to spend that on a yearly basis, really what we're doing now, you can consider we're using cost savings to pay for it, if that makes sense. I mean, we're not talking about a little bit of money. The AT&T money was in the hundreds of thousands, I believe.
Yes, and we no longer even have that option now, so the cost would have been dramatically up, because they will not allow you to stay on these legacy systems anymore. They're, on some cases, they're making a 10-15 fold increase per line. So if you were paying $3,000, 10-15 times of that, that's per month. So it's not a little deal. We have to do this. So as the chairman's saying, is it'll pay for itself. Well, you have to do it. You couldn't afford to not do this at this point.
Can I have a motion to allow the RFP to be sent out? Motion by Mr. Hunter, second by Ms. Weber. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the opioid lawsuit settlement payments. Chairman Wheeler.
This is more informational right now. The excuse me, for those who weren't here or don't remember, we were the first county in Illinois to sue the opioid manufacturers for their predatory practices, if you will. That was those lawsuits were settled and we got our first set of payments. There's a very specific list of those uses.
There's nothing in the packet.
There's nothing, yeah, those, and we'll get those to you guys, you all. We're missing a couple things, but sorry about that, I missed it. There are specific uses that you could use the money for, like ARPA. It's actually more restrictive, like than ARPA was. So in talking with really the departments that are involved with this on a regular basis, which is sheriff, coroner, and state's attorney, we decided to put 25% over in in special funds, if you will, and 25% because it's restricted on that use. Put 25% over with the sheriff and the other 75% with the state's attorney's office. In that manner, and then the state's attorney will be partnering with the coroner on the events that they do for, you know, whether it's Narcan, which is a separate grant, but it's all the stuff that they'll be doing over there. So that was the initial allocation, just to get them into the bank, into the right funds. And they are pretty much, well, not pretty much, they're in control of how that money is spent per the guidelines. So I just, this informational, if people have more questions, they can ask. And it's just so new that this money is just going out. And by the way, this is year after year after year. And there's other lawsuits that we have signed on. So unfortunately, they're looking at it by a population allocation instead of a impact by population allocation. So if you were to say, you know, overdoses per 100,000 people, we're towards the top of that list, but we're somewhere in the middle on population, if that makes sense. So we're not necessarily getting the money that like a Cook County would get, even though the impact is on par with what they have in Cook County.
How much did we get for the settlement?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I can't remember right now.
No worries.
Yeah, because we also just got our first check for the state sending us $115,000 for public defenders, and so we're trying to figure out, you know, how to work that all into because it's restricted to that use, and it's only for the Safety Act.
I think Mr. McCarty has the answer probably.
And a rounded number, about 200,000 was the first
okay.
round of checks, roughly.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? All right, thank you for the information. Is there any new or old business from the committee? Mr. Hunter.
Thank you very much. I was looking for the new business. This is for, and thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for affording me the opportunity to speak on this. This is directed towards Chairman Wheeler, Mr. McCarty, and the department heads, sheriff, treasurer, etc., the duly elected department heads. I was just reflecting on the Nicor gas line out in Pembroke, and I remember being at the announcement and so forth, and Nicor allocated $25,000. I'm not sure if it was if it was like a donation towards the chamber. I can't remember which entity received the $25K, but I was thinking in terms of some of these large contracts that are being let, and I wanted to impart this concept to the Chairman Wheeler and those other individuals I referenced in terms of a community benefits program. For example, some of these entities receive these large contracts as opposed to that money going up I-57 or out of the region, to ask them to make sure that they leave some of that money here in terms of community benefits, Boy Scouts, adopting a school, assisting in different projects for the Park District and so forth. And I'm just tossing this out to you guys in hopes of when they receive these contracts, there will be some community benefits of the communities that are impacted by the contracts.
I would have to defer to the state's attorney's office. I know we can't.
It's not mandatory. No, it's just an inquiry. For example, you know, I just gave you an example of Nicor. They're making a whole bunch of money off the gas line, natural gas line, but they're leaving some money in the community as a community benefits residual impact of that contract.
I will say that we've had we've engaged in that with some of the wind and solar companies who are asking about what they should do just in that area. So it is not uncommon to have those conversations. We obviously can't say, you know, tie it to zoning and special use permits and things like that, but I would say that you are correct. We would like to see people that invest in our community as well, especially our local vendors are. It's not a requirement. We're not home rule, but it can be something we mentioned we'd like to see. Does that make sense, Steve?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, we're not home rule, so only Cook could actually tie that to the contract, which would then obviously up the price of the contract, and the taxpayers are paying for that community benefit. So, but we can figure that out.
Is that all, Mr. Hunter? Yeah. Any other new or old business? I think I got a motion in the back, Mr. Hess. Motion by Mr. Hess, second by Ms. Polk. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.